I grew up in a city that I'd call small in the northeast of China. While it does boast a population of over 6 million people, it has always felt too small compared to the huge cities I frequented growing up. Shanghai, Beijing, Hong Kong were all bustling metropolises compared to the small world of school, home, and school again I was so used to. Looking back, my horizons grew far too early, and as I was thrown into the world at the ripe old age of 12, I will still never understand why my father decided to send me to a boarding school in Wales, of all places, but I suspect that a scholarship had something to do with his decision. Regardless, I was now in a small town of a few thousand people. I was in a place without buildings over 3 stories tall, with parks and nothingness dotted between streets, with the quiet finally audible. With the change in my perception of scale also came a change in my experience of community. In my home city, I would almost never find myself recognizing someone on the street outside of our designated times and spaces of interaction. To see a classmate or even a friend, although we had more than 50 people per class, was an occurrence so rare that to this day I remember running into one of them at a shopping mall. In that little town in Wales where I started my middle school, almost everyone knew each other. There were only so many places a 13-year-old could go after school. Friends became much more than people I met in class and I never saw again over the weekends. They became integral to my time there. It felt, perhaps paradoxically, that I, as a foreigner and a bit of a nerd, would feel more of a community in a town worlds away than I did back home. Especially considering that China is supposed to be community-based. In China, the foundation of all social interactions and morality is Confucianism. And yes, we also have that joke where everything is attributed to Confucius. Confucius says this and says that, just because his book kind of covers everything in Chinese history. For Confucius, the key to both personal happiness and societal success was to be a virtuous person, also known as Junzi. A Junzi, as I was taught, must adhere to a certain set of principles of standards. First, we have Ren, which is benevolence, caring about the well-being of others. Yi, righteousness, the moral choices that forego an individual's own benefits to do the right thing. Li, which is propriety or adherence to customs and rituals, respect to the social norms that Confucius is so built on. Zhi, which is wisdom, the ability to judge situations and the correct course of action. And finally, we have Xing, trustworthiness, keeping one's word and integrity in all situations. To be a Junzi, a virtuous person as I was taught, meant to follow the rules of the world, the roles that society assigned to me. I needed to listen to my father. I needed to listen to my ruler. I needed to listen to my elders. And I needed to be a good person in any way possible. Of course, this did not sit that well to me. I always wondered why. What of my desires, my wants? Do I live just for the requirements and the desires of others? To be a good person, to possess all of these virtues, there has to be a reason to be here, a reason to continue, to wake up day after day doing the things I don't want to, doing the things that I'm supposed to do. It didn't make sense why I had to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning and work until 11 p.m. doing all of these competitions and preparing for all those exams that mean nothing. It doesn't make sense why I can't do the things that I enjoy to do, why I can't play games, listen to music, or read the books I want, go hang out with friends, go do things that isn't the right thing to do. And so in high school, much like the countless number of teenagers before me, I rebelled. It was harder for my parents to cajole me into doing whatever they wanted or what I should be doing because I now asked why. Surely, I could find my own purpose to live, something I would actually agree with. Existentialism was a movement that appeared in France in the mid 20th century, and I quickly got familiar with its figureheads, Sartre, de Beauvoir, Kierkegaard, and Nietzsche to a further extent. I began with rejecting the notion that there was an inherent reason to be, no matter if it came from society or from any intrinsic source. My horizons broadened, and I fell down a rather rational path. The argument was simple. What was the difference between me and, say, someone born in the US? Nothing but random luck. What is the connection between me and my parents? They gave birth to me. They raised me. What is my relationship with my nation and the allegiances I was argued to have? Nothing. Except once again, luck and random chance. There's no reason for me to follow these moralities. None of them made sense. None of them was actually true. What then do I live to be? Indeed, Camus was right. The first question before anything else is to decide whether to live or to die. There had to be something that keeps a person going through all the good and all the bad, especially the bad. Like many teenage boys, I considered going down the hedonistic route, to just do whatever I so desired. It would be fun, it would be nice. I could finally be free and to just follow what my heart tells me to do. But it's not possible. The reality is, we can't have true hedonism. I can't just drop everything that I am to simply sit, do nothing, and fill my brain with dopamine. Unfortunately, this flesh suit of mine, this body of bone and sinew and blood and meat, still needs things to live on. I still need food, I still need shelter, and the world that my pleasures reside in, the world that I find myself in, requires me to do more than just enjoy all the wonderful things it possesses. So, if I didn't want to do the things I need to do the things I want to do, but I still want to live and to enjoy the way of existence that is fun to me, it does certainly appear that I am on that proverbial hill waiting for the boulder to roll. But why not let it roll all the way? Turning inwards, I considered what exactly was keeping me here in this mortal coil. For one, I definitely wanted to have fun. There are so many beauties of this world, whether natural or man-made, that I want to enjoy and to learn to appreciate. With every person I met, I learned more about the world through their eyes, and it's a joy every time. Another important reason is that I, after leaving high school, found that I had a certain vision in mind for what I want to be, not what I want to do or to achieve. I want to be free. Now, by this, I don't mean to be free in the boring sense of having no restrictions and being able to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. That, as I experienced before, is just infeasible. My version of freedom was best summed up in a random conversation around 2 a.m. I had with a friend in a random park. I want to stand, my feet planted, my arms outstretched towards the heavens, between sky and earth. I want to empty my chest, not to lose myself, but to be able to encompass everything, to take everything in, to encompass even myself in my being. This sounds a little insane, I understand. But to boil it down, there were two main motivators to how I make choices and why I stick around. Whatever choice I make, whether it is randomly learning how to ride a motorcycle, even though I'm deathly afraid of being on the road on one, or getting a part-time job as a bartender with no other reason than it being interesting, has to either be romantic or funny. The romance is relatively easy to explain. It's my perception of an ideal for myself, qualities that could be argued to be linked to the virtues I've grown up with. I am driven by these beliefs of correctness as much as anyone else, even though I did say that I don't believe they exist intrinsically. Only I found that I don't need to justify why I have these virtues anymore. I feel like I would rather be free in just believing the things that I believe in having the core beliefs of not hurting other people and not to do anything that I would regret. If I want to be going on a random trip, then focusing on my academics, as long as I can bear the consequences, I will make that choice. The second reason, the funniness, is a little bit more crazy. I genuinely believe that all of my choices, all of the circumstances I put myself in, has to be humorous to either myself or another, or both. I never want to find myself in a situation where if I stop and see how I ended up here, or what am I doing in this moment, that it doesn't make me laugh about how crazy the circumstances are. Just a couple of months ago, I went on an impromptu trip to Antarctica for no good reason at all, other than I had enough money saved up and I could go. That's it. Was it the right thing to do? 100% not. My wallet is lighter than air right now. Did it get in the way of my academics? Probably yes. I definitely could have been using that time to work more on assignments and other pursuits. But I still went, simply because, one, I wanted to, and two, it was going to be funny, whether to myself or to other people. After all, with life so short and so long, so eternal and so fragile, what else do I have left to do but to enjoy what I have and to be free in how I am? Thus, paradoxically, I found myself coming back to the Eastern philosophies, specifically the concept of Zen. A sub-branch of Buddhism, Zen was a phrase many people use around the world, in China and in the Western world as I see, with almost no understanding of what it actually means. For Buddhism, while I found it a bit too obsessed with a framework of belief, I found its central argument compelling. Buddhists believe in a cyclical life of pain and suffering, born from our desires and inabilities to let go. They believe that the only way to be free is to let go of all of these desires and attachments, to reach nirvana and to escape the cycle of reincarnation. Now, this sounds a little bit similar to our old friend nihilism. After all, it does seem like the Buddhist perspective is saying that the goal of living is to die an eternal death. There's no other reason to be here other than to let everything go, to release everything, and to be free in death. So while this core belief was intriguing to me, I didn't like how it seemed to view all attachments, all desires, and all emotions as inherently bad. It was too black and white, too separated into good and bad. So much so that modern Buddhism appears to be people praising Buddhas above the people they were, to worship them as gods, and to ask for the good things and to avoid the bad. This was not acceptance. This was still running away from problems. It was still trying to change how things are. It is not the peace that I so desired. And that's when I ran into Zen Buddhism. Zen, contrary to popular belief, is much more than saying Om and doing meditations, retreating into monasteries, and living in the moment. All of these simple acts are brushed aside and even mocked because people who tried them or heard of them don't understand why they are done and what they mean. Zen is about acceptance and understanding. The true meaning of life, the true meaning of Zen, the true pursuit of all of this cannot be put into words. It can only be felt and understood in the moment. You will never understand Zen unless you feel it and understand it by yourself. I can't tell you what it is because it is not your understanding. I could tell you a few core concepts, of course. The first being the lack of difference between everything, especially those that we find to be contradictory. Old phrases of Zen go something like this. To go east, you go west. To have is to not to have. To be is to not be. There is known something and there is known nothing. And this core concept helps in understanding that there is no good or bad, but there is also the purest of good and the purest of bad in each and every moment. There's no difference between me and you because we all suffer the same and we all feel the same and we all love the same. And because of that, we are so unique in how we approach the world and so similar. And so, through my years of teenage angst and philosophical arguments and eventual spiritual followings, I would say that the question of identity still plagues me to this day. There is always going to be a question of where I belong, with the people of my culture, with the media and the new wave of culture I consumed, or with what I want to be. It's impossible to say. And I, at this stage in my life, at least understand enough to know that it is okay to not know. To know that it is okay to see where things go, to be free, and to enjoy things as they come.